DBS community, welcome back to another video. Hip Scout Chris. Today we're going to be going over the state of the meta for yellow so far in set 20. Hope you guys enjoy the series. I know we are starting to get into really ramping up into the regional series. We've done a few top cut breakdowns. I am going to work on a state of like competitive Dragon Ball. I don't know. I'm going to try to calculate some data from all the regionals. We'll see if I can get the video out here this week. But if you guys do enjoy the content, as always, thank you for subscribing. If you guys do, hit the bell for notifications. Those are the different ways you guys can support the channel and just keep up to date with what's going on the channel. So, first thing is, yellow's in a very interesting spot. At the start of this video, I believe one of the regionals has taken first place was a yellow, which was Philip Tarpini with the Golden Frieza. I believe that video's already been out. But yellow's kind of we kind of thought going into this format, yellow was going to be in a weird spot because of the ban of the both double strike cards, both Kai and Further Destruction Champa, because yellow's real game finisher was the Mira Creator Absorb combo, tacked on with a, Champa or East Kai, and then also, included with like a Gohan Piccolo Secret Rare, right? Or like Mira into Oolong, right? Yellow is a very resource heavy battle. It's essentially what it is we're going to go to turn 6, turn 7 possibly, and whoever has more resources generally is going to win that battle. That's why yellow's just been so dominant, honestly, right? But now with yellow losing these two cards, we thought it was going to be a huge deal. I don't think it is anymore. I think yellow has definitely pivoted to a position where this particularly is not as important. Unfortunately, I do think for some decks, losing the Champa definitely hurts because now you have to play an even slower game. His yellow used to just be able to, crack Mira Champa on turn 4, maybe turn 3 in some games, and you're probably winning that game, right? So definitely has lost a little bit of the luster, but it still is a very good color, as we'll go into some of the decks here. That's probably the two best yellow decks going into this set was Trunks Vegeta and Golden Frieza. Now, Golden Frieza and I have a very weird relationship, right? Before Worlds, I put Golden Frieza as my dark horse. If you guys watched that video, I put it as my dark horse to win the event. I thought this was the best deck going into Crimson matchups. And honestly, I think Philip Tarpini probably could have played Golden Frieza and probably still would have won if he would have played it, just because of how good Golden Frieza is now. But Philip, whatever his name is, I don't know what he goes by. Trunks Vegeta, that's what he took. He ended up winning the event with that, playing a very similar style to what you would play with Golden Frieza. So it was just interesting that he ended up playing, Trunks Vegeta. But that matchup is it's a very, very good matchup into Crimson, right? And with Crimson gone, my theory, which is when I made my my tier list video for the leaders, I put Golden Frieza in casual, right? I think Golden Frieza is a very good deck, as I said, but I thought with the reduced amount of blue that we were going to have in the format and more red, I thought Golden Frieza would take a much bigger hit than what it actually has. Probably because people are still playing tons of blue, right? People who just because Crimson's gone, people are not, just switching off of blue. People are migrating to other leaders, and I think that's what I was unsure about, which is, what happens. You're not, these aren't prediction videos, these are just kind of opinions, so I was wrong. It happens, right? Golden Frieza is a fantastic leader going into this set. Honestly, it's probably, if archetype wise, it might be one of the more expensive ones, unfortunately, just because of a few different cards in that deck. But we're going to over both these leaders just a little bit. Trunks Vegeta has been around for a very long time, since post Nationals of 2021, I believe. So that was the first set after Nationals, and Trunks Vegeta has been around ever since, right? It has tons of utility, both offensively and defensively. It plays the Piccolo Gohan. I think most people are still playing Piccolo Gohan, and it's a very, very well thought out deck. I think this deck will probably be around for next year's Nationals, more than likely. They have. And Trunks Vegeta it's not even broken, which is what's nice, is that it is a very fair deck. The deck has tons of value, right? It has good offense, has good defense, has a built-in double striker. I don't think the deck does anything broken because everything does cost energy, but the deck does everything efficiently, which is why it's so good. It's very consistent. I think if you're going to play yellow, this is probably the deck you want to pick up to learn. It probably has the the lowest floor, and I talk about this a lot in my tier list videos, but the ceiling versus floor sort of conversation of floor being the entry level into a deck, the ceiling being the cap of what that deck could potentially do in the hands of a particular pilot. That's always the asterisk you have to put on these decks. Trunks Cheetah has probably one of the lowest floors in competitive Dragon Ball. It has probably one of the lowest floors. You play a 1-drop, the other 1-drop plays another 1-drop, you awaken turn 2, all of your 1-drops basically draw you 2 cards, they all restand, your leader plays a 1-drop, or your leader can play a 1-drop that plays a 1-drop, right? Like you can literally, you have an in-archetype searcher, you have so many tools. Obviously entry, the Secret Rare is not being entry level, but everything else is pretty entry level. So I think this deck is very good. I have nothing bad to say about Trunks Cheetah. I think it's very, very fair. If I still played yellow, at times I wish I would have kept my yellow stuff, but it's okay. Trunks Cheetah would be the deck that I would play for sure. Now Golden Frieza, Golden Frieza is a very, very different beast, man. This deck is outvalues, I think, I would say almost every deck in the format, or every deck in the game. I think there's very few decks that can actually keep up with Golden Frieza's hand size. And now with Golden Cooler being introduced into the format, it changes a lot too, because now not only is Golden Frieza drawing probably more than most other decks, but now you have a legit boss monster finisher that's going to remove your entire opponent's hand. And then you have infinite swings, essentially, being able to take your opponent down to five cards in hand, and then you just swinging and continue to swing as long as they have Z energy, right? But in Golden Frieza, you play this on turn 6, you play a 1-drop, you're restanding, you're going back up to 2 energy, you have 2 energy for defense, which is just incredible, right? If you play this on turn 5, if you have a Frieza on board, you can, again, go back up to 2 energy. So that's a very interesting little play. And from what we saw with Philip Tarpini's list, he was really heavily focused on the Super Saiyan 2 Son Gohan Unison as his pressure piece. He wasn't really playing battle cards that dealt damage other than Golden Frieza, or other than Golden Cooler. But this was basically his pushing potential. He'd play this, go up to probably like 6 markers, -3, swing 3 times with this, play another one, so like that's he was basically just recycling the Gohans, which is a great value. Great value. I think this deck, I don't know. I think probably loses really hard to aggro in some matchups, but any matchup that wants to grind out, you have to be able to outgrind Golden Frieza. And a lot of decks really can't do that. Also, having a 1-of Cold Bloodlust, which stops most Secret Rares in the game, because all the new Secret Rares are being printed with no deflect. So you play your Secret Rare for 4 or 5 energy, and then they just tap 1 and just stop all of its effects. So yeah, kind of kills the effectiveness of it. But very good list. If you have the funds to purchase the Golden Frieza, a lot of the stuff is just 1-drop. It's like 1-drop cantrips, but like Gohan Z Fighter Unison, you could probably get the SR for pretty cheap. Golden Cooler is like $100. What's expensive will be one of the cards we'll see on this list. That's a little more expensive here. So, but I do have some other yellow decks that you can look into that I think are going to fill out the rest of the yellow, like what do I play in yellow format. Right? So we have Majin Vegeta, we have Sin Shinron, yellow Sin Shinron, and we have Goku and Vegeta, which is the Vegito leader, or Spirit Bomb Coup, or Vegito Spirit Bomb, whatever you guys want to call it. So the first one, Super Saiyan Vegeta, Majin Vegeta. This deck is awesome. I love this deck. This deck could be considered a yellow aggro deck. In some cases, you can really go heavy on turn 2. You have decent amount of defense because you are a yellow deck. Having this 25k double striker that kills a card, and having the potential to restand, it just allows you to kind of extend your turns farther than what they should normally go. Z Leader is very good for when it's free. 2, you can wipe your entire opponent's board, ignoring barrier. So if your opponent's attacking into you and they hand dump on a battle card, you can just activate battle. As long as you're not at 1 life, you can basically kill their entire board. Very good leader. I think this leader is going to be around for a while. Very good starter deck print. I'm very excited about this leader. It's not broken. just very, very powerful. And I've seen a few different builds of it. We've seen the green yellow build that plays the Broly Secret Rare. That one's kind of cool. Seen people play Xeno Cell, which is pretty interesting. We've seen the traditional mono yellow. This would be an interesting deck if we had another form of Aegis card. Being able to play yellow blue could be kind of cool. So, but regardless, Majin Vegeta is probably a good deck for you to play if you don't want to play Trunks Vegeta. And you have you can get your hands on 2 of the starter decks for this, and then just the good yellow staples. This would be a good deck to play. And another leader that did come out in set 20. This one actually came out in the actual set, is the Spirit Bomb Goku list. Now, is it as good as Trunks Vegeta? Golden Frieza? No. But it is a yellow Saiyan leader. So at some point, this might be the yellow deck to play. As of right now, it's unfortunately not, and that's okay. It happens. There's a lot of these lists, these decks that are printed, where they're printed and then they get more, support down the road, maybe with a ban list or something that actually, pushes them into that tier 1 slot. I think Goku Vegeta can potentially be there. For one, it has a very, very powerful boss monster and universe at stake. Also, 2, has a very good game-ending Z leader effect, being able to make your your Z leader this gigantic attack that also stops your opponent from activating cards in their combo area, and gets double strike. So it kind of works as a Champa, almost works as a mirror Champa in your leader, right? So I think this deck can potentially be good in the future. I know people have been playing testing it at our locals. It's done fairly okay. Nothing to go crazy over, because you do have Trunks Vegeta and Golden Frieza still in the format. So it's just kind of there. I don't think it's going to fit into it. It doesn't even fit into that third slot, which I think would be for Majin Vegeta. It's kind of a tier below that. So tier 2 list, or a tier 2 deck. It's at some point it might be viable. Just at the moment, not the time for it. But a lot of the the cards from this archetype, like the 4-drop Goku Vegeta, the 1-drop Kibito Kai, a lot of those cards can be played in Trunks Vegeta as well, so you just play them in the better leader. Now this leader here, Yellow Sin, I think this leader could potentially change, not fully change, but could change potentially the format if someone kind of picks up the right build for it. So Yellow Sin's been around forever, probably kind of close to when I started playing the games. This leader came out in set 10. This was the beginning of Unison format. It's like, what, 2 years ago? So one of the big things with this leader is being able to just tap 6 and replay your entire board, right? There's a lot of matchups where that's going to come in handy, right? Any control matchup. So like if you put this leader against 21, right? I would love to see 10 games, 20 games of Sin versus Android 21. I would just love to see what the percentage is of Android 21 being able to win those games, right? Being able to just consistently board wipe Sin, but then also consistently Sin just replaying its board would be very interesting to see how that matchup actually goes. Mechikabura Unison, very powerful Unison, something that we have not seen played in the format in quite some time. Fits perfectly, obviously, in this deck. It was printed for the leader, but that was a card at one point that was like $30, right? It's like a 50-cent card right now. If you're a yellow leader and you want to control Unison, this is a Unison to play. And obviously, most people aren't going to turn 4 and playing Unison, but this deck being able to get the turn 4 pretty easily and then slamming down this Unison, it stabilizes so well, so well. And then you have the 9-drop, right? And we have another card. We actually can go into the 9-drop, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the 9-drop still incredibly powerful, right? Blanking every card that comes into play. Obviously, doesn't stop on play autos, but being able to blank a card, you can, they play a big boss monster. It might get its board wiped or whatever, but then it can't attack. I mean, that loses all of its effects on play. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You can play Golden Cooler in this deck too. That's kind of nuts, right? I don't know if you would, but being able to, Golden Cooler on turn 6, or playing all your guys on turn 6, and then turn 7 slamming down Golden Cooler, and then having an entire board of dragons, kind of terrifying. So just something to think about. I think this deck will eventually make itself back in the top cut, but I just don't think people are playing it. I think that's the only problem. I just don't think people are investing in playing Sin right now because they want to play other stuff, which is fair. But we'll possibly see it maybe at one of the big in-person regionals. maybe Gen Con, things like that. But this is definitely a leader to look out for. And finally, some yellow cards you should be picking up if you are playing yellow from this previous set of cards. So we have Super Saiyan, Vegito, and Majin Buu. These are cards that were printed in set 20. They both have SR variances. So I know the Vegito, actually, the SR might also be expensive. I know for Buu, the SR is probably like $1. The SR for Vegito might be like 15-20 bucks because this card is broken. It's essentially a mecha that also can stop all strike skills except for I think except for Gogeta, I believe. But it stops all. Actually, it might stop Gogeta because it's in the player. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But essentially is a floodgate. The Mecha Frieza that also stops your opponent from dealing more than 1 damage to you, which is very powerful. And it's also a blocker, right? And then you have Majin Buu, which is a 30k double strike you can play for 1. Again, very powerful card. Now, card here in the middle. Cold-Hearted Shadow Dragon, Sin Shinran. This is a championship card. This card is undeniably a meta-defining card. I think people who have the card will say that. People who have played against it will say that. This card is crazy good, right? 24k deflect unique barrier blocker. Draws you a card when it comes into play. Comes in for 2 if you fulfill the permanent effect on the card. And the auto, this is very important, it's not once per turn on the actual auto. It's inside the skill. So when your opponent plays a battle card, you may choose that card and negate its skills. If you do, switch this card to active mode and negate the skill for the turn. So I believe what this means is that because it's not once per turn, you can do this whenever. So if your opponent plays a card that you don't really care about to try to trigger this, you just don't have to trigger it, right? Now obviously you have to choose that card, so it has to have, it can't have barrier, which is, you know, unfortunately you can kind of get around it that way. But 24k attacker that also can block, or it can be a double blocker. Right? You can block, they can play a battle card, you can then restand this, and then you negate that card's skills. Like there's so many little things you can do with this. Now in Yellow Sin, as I was saying, this is a 4-drop. I don't think you can play. I would have to look. I don't think you can play this card off of the 1-drop ball, but you can still play it for 2. And then you can go into the 9-drop off of this card. You also can play this off of your leader ability, right? Absolutely ridiculous, right? So I think the card, the non-gold version's like 40 bucks right now. I think the gold version's maybe between 60 and 80. Unfortunately, with how limited these cards are, I don't see them being very cheap. This card probably won't ever be 15-20 bucks unless it gets another reprint or it just gets mass produced, which I don't think will happen either. But these are cards that, if you are playing yellow, unfortunately, yellow has always been notoriously an expensive color to play at the top, even if you're not going for max rarity, just because there are so many good yellow staples. So it is what it is. But these are some cards you should be picking up from the recent set of cards, whether they're TPs or just from set 20 itself. Now, I do have some content that has come out on the channel that is referring to yellow decks. There's a few other yellow decks as well. There was the Majin Buu, as well as the AOD promo Bobbity leader as well, but since I chose the Vegito and the Majin Vegeta for this video, I feel like I'd put those videos up here. Those will also be at the end of the video in the credits if you guys want to click on those to watch those videos as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you guys for the support, thank you guys for watching the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.